What we are doing right now is studying how personal protective equipment, or PPE, pollution associated with the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting the marine environment.
So the COVID pandemic was a story of two halves, really. Initially, when it hit and everybody was inside, we saw a dramatic decrease in the amount of litter that we were finding everywhere. And unfortunately, that was pretty short-lived. And as soon as masks became a regular thing and gloves and all that advice changed, all of a sudden the litter we found was changing. And I think it's shifted away from all the work we've done in the last few years.
We found that the vast majority of the items that were polluting the coastal environment of Lima were face masks. Actually, more than 80%, about 87% of the items were face masks. And the rest were face shields, like about 6% of the items were face shields, and about 4% were gloves.
My journey with plastic really started with this animal. This is a 10-day-old seal pup called Splash, and he was surrounded by plastic bottles, and clearly this is not a great place for a seal pup to be brought up. So I started trying to learn a little bit more about plastics, and then discovered microplastics, which was a bit of a shock. So grey seals are our globally rare speciality species. We have 34 to 38% of the world's population here in the UK, and yet there are still more red squirrels in the UK than there are grey seals. So for us, this is our equivalent of an African elephant.
Try this at home, outside, okay? Take a mask, rip it, and then set fire to it. It won't burn like paper, okay? It melts. There's plastic in this. So that plastic then breaks down because it's all fibrous.
So this is a machine washable PPE mask, and when I wash it, all these fibres are going to go into the sea and they'll end up with my seals. Well, research has shown that microplastics are found in our stomachs. They've been found in stomachs of seabirds, but they've also been found in the stomachs of seals. It's only a matter of time before those densities of blockage, microplastic blockages in our intestines start to create quite significant health problems that at the minute we can only begin to imagine.
I believe that PPE items came here to stay, because synthetic polymers, which is the chemical composition of most plastics, they're not like degradable plastics or naturally occurring materials.
This photograph really changed my life because I was totally shocked by this. These are little tiny weeny microscopic fragments of plastic fibres that will come off any material that is plastic based.
So it's not only the use of face masks, face shields, and any other type of single-use PPE, but also different types of single-use plastics that make people feel safer. They feel like the items that they are getting are disinfected or free from the virus. You can find some face masks and other type of plastics that are being colonized by naturally occurring organisms like algae, limpets. Plastic is actually a good substrate for this type of organisms to flourish. Once all of these items get colonized, they can be transported to other sites. And invasive species reaches an ecosystem, it could really harm the stability of this ecosystem, and it's really hard to get rid of.
If we're using a washing machine, then we need to use a microplastic trap bag. This is an example called a guppy bag. So when you open it up, ironically, it's a plastic bag with a very, very fine mesh. So this is a stop micro waste plastic bag. You put your washing inside the bag. Anything that's plastic, if it's not wool or it's not cotton or it's not silk, then it needs to go in the bag. Zip it up and wash it. And at the end of the wash, It takes quite a long time actually for the tiny fragments to build up, but they will collect in the seams inside the bag, and then you just literally have to manually scoop them out with your hand and put them in a bin. You have to put them in a plastic bag. It's really important that they get permanently trapped in something that isn't going to rot.
So the problem with PPE is that obviously you've got to be really considerate about the cross-contamination with it, so it's quite difficult for us to work with. So at the moment we're having to send everything to the incinerator, but there are projects popping up all over the place which is taking PPE and using it to create other products. So we make jewellery, earrings, cufflinks, chopping boards, house signs, all sorts of different pieces, bits and pieces. We take this non-recyclable material, so that's this here, plastic fluff. This is all the beach clean waste chopped down, and we mix it in plant-based resin, which then gets set into different moulds and gets made into jewellery.
I would say that the COVID-19 is not something that's going to end soon, despite having all the vaccination programs across the world. So I believe that the time to start changing towards reusable items instead of single-use items is right now, and it is as soon as possible. It is very important to communicate this type of information to the population so that people know that when they're using a face mask, they're not just discarding any type of item. They're actually impacting severely the environment, and these repercussions are going to be seen for a very long time.
We all depend on the sea for every second breath we take, and unless we learn to look after our sea, our lives are all at risk.